G'day everyone, my name is Jeff, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the Nikon Z6 and some of the issues I've had with this camera, integrating it into my real estate photography workflow. Now for the last 3 years I've been using this setup here, which is the Nikon D750 and the 14-24 f2.8 lens. Now the Nikon D750 has been an excellent body for my real estate photography work. I find that the dynamic range of the sensor and just the quality of the image I get out of this is excellent for what I do. The 14-24mm lens is an excellent range as well, and the images are sharp and clear, and I love this lens and camera body combination. Now there's a few small things that I love about the D750 that I didn't realize how much I loved until I got my Nikon Z6 here. And the reason for that is just basically that the D750 body and a lot of Nikon's DSLR bodies just tend to have more buttons for dedicated functions than a smaller mirrorless camera does. So I'm going to go through a few of those now and just talk about those things which I miss on the Nikon Z6 compared to my Nikon D750. The next issue I want to talk about between the D750 and the Nikon Z6 is an issue I've found when I'm reviewing images and then want to change settings on my camera. So with the D750 you have an old school LCD panel on top of the body, and that LCD panel is always on. When your camera is on, it never turns off. So if you've got your live view on and off, it doesn't matter, it doesn't switch the top on and off. And if you're doing anything through the screen on the back, if you're reviewing images or anything like that, you can always glance up and see what settings you're at on that little LCD panel. With the Nikon Z6 on the other hand, you do have a panel on top. I think it's an LED now, not an LCD. The issue with the Z6 is when you're in image review, it turns that top panel off. So now you can only see the image on the back screen, but you can't see any data on the top screen. And I think this problem has something to do with the fact that the D750 is a DSLR with a different electronic or mechanical workings than the Z6, which is obviously a mirrorless camera. Now when you review images on your D750, if you take a photo and review it, when you're reviewing the photo itself, you can change the settings of the camera while you're in review mode. So if I review the last shot that I did and I look and think that's good, it's nice and bright, but it's not quite bright enough, I can actually change my shutter speed down a stop while I'm reviewing the image. So while the image is being reviewed, I can change the shutter speed and then I can fire another photo. And that little thing there just allows me to do things quicker. I mean, it's not really a feature of the D750, and I don't think it's anything Nikon thought of as being a feature, but just being able to change your settings while you're in image review, for me and for how I work, speeds my process up quite a lot. Now with the Z6, unfortunately, when you go into image review mode, the top LED screen blacks out on you, so you can no longer see your settings. You don't know where you are, but you do know pretty much what shot you're on. You know what exposure you just fired. So what you do is, like I would have done with the D750, is I look at the shot and I think I need to go a stop brighter, so I adjust a stop. But my first click of my shutter dial turns off the image review first, and then it starts changing the exposure. So what I find is happening, because I'm so used to the way the D750 works, is when I'm on the Z6 and I'm reviewing my shot, if I think I need to go a stop brighter, I go 3 clicks, but it's actually not a full stop because the first click has just turned off live view and the second 2 clicks have started to adjust, but I needed 3 clicks to do 1 stop. So I'm often finding that I go to adjust by 1 stop and I take a photo and look down and realize I'm off by 1/3 of a stop. Now being off is not really that big a problem, being off by 1/3 of a stop, although I do like to be accurate. I like, if I want to do 1 stop, I want to do 1 stop. I just find it really annoying that when you view the image on your LCD on the back, that this top LED turns off. I find that irritating. I want to be able to look down and see, and I want to be able to change my exposure while I'm reviewing my photos and then trigger and shoot again. that just speeds my process up. And when you're doing a lot of real estate photos every day, it's those little things which speed your job up over time. And it's those little things which, when they work like the Z6 and they don't allow you to quickly adjust things and take another shot, it slows you down. And again, I'm probably going to email Nikon with this list and tell them how my experience has been and ask me if they can make any changes to these in future firmware updates. But for now, if anyone knows how to fix that issue with the top LED panel turning off, if there's a setting that I haven't found, then let me know. I'd love to be able to change that. And the last issue I want to talk about between the two cameras now relates to the lens itself. Now, with my Nikon D750, I have the f-mount 14 to 24mm lens, and with the Z6, I have the S-line 14 to 30mm f4 lens. The 14 to 30mm f4 lens is a fantastic lens. Like, it really is a fantastic lens. I do actually like the fact that it compacts down. A lot of people have commented they don't like the collapsing nature of these lenses, but I actually appreciate it. I can fit it more things in my bag because of that. It doesn't have as big a footprint as my 14 to 24, which is probably an inch or more longer than the 14 to 30 on the Z6. So I really do like that. And the lens is sharp. It has an excellent range. 14 to 30 is better than 14 to 24 for the real estate. That ability to go from 24 to 30 really helps me when I'm shooting front shots, especially when I have to step onto the road and get a more compressed view of the front. I can now go into 30mm. I don't have to resort to just using DX mode on my camera to zoom in a little bit. I can zoom in with the lens a little bit more, which I think is fantastic. I think 16 to 35 is a great range, but 16 is not quite wide enough. 14 to 24 is a great range, but 24 is not quite long enough. And I think the 14 to 30 compromise is brilliant. Canon, I know, has just released a 15 to 35, I think, and that's better than 16 to 35, but I still think 14 every now and then is very useful to have. Now, the issue with the S-line lens compared to the f-mount lens is basically just in the mechanical nature of one versus the electronic nature of the other. Now, I know everything's going electronic as far as camera lenses and bodies go. Everything is going to be fully electronic now. Mechanical parts are disappearing. And I totally understand that, I totally get that. But I do love the fact that with my D750, I do have a mechanical distance scale on the lens, and I can look down, and automatically see exactly where I'm focused every time. And I can see if I've nailed focus, and I can look at that distance scale and know if it's, if it's going to be right or not. Unfortunately, with electronic cameras, with mirrorless cameras, the lenses often don't have distance scales because they're much more compact, or they want to be compact, although there are exceptions. There are definitely mirrorless lenses out there with distance scales on them, don't get me wrong. But this S-line lens doesn't have it. So if I want to shoot manual focus, I switch my lens to manual focus, and now I get a manual focus adjustment on the back of the screen. And it's the same as the Sony's. You get this little electronic distance gauge, and I just find that difficult to adjust at times. I find it difficult to make small incremental steps without turning it too hard. It's easy to turn too hard and make too big of a change to the focus. So not being able to just quickly look on a lens and having to look at the back of a screen, I find does slow me down. I do wish that it was different. I do wish that this lens had a scale of some sort, and I know Nikon is planning on a 14 to 24 f2.8 for the Z, and that will have a distance scale, even though it will be electronic. It'll have an electronic distance scale, which I think I'll get because I find that very useful. But I do love the 14 to 30 lens. It's got an excellent range. That's the thing. I don't know if I want to go back to 14 to 24 again. So for real estate photography, being able to see settings instantly, to be able to double check instantly without digging into menus when you're a working photographer is actually quite important. Mirrorless cameras, yeah, they save weight and they save size, but I'm taking my camera from my car and I'm walking up a driveway into a house with it in a backpack. So the extra 2 kilos of weight savings having a mirrorless system doesn't really mean anything to me and to my type of photography, believe it or not. And real estate photography is not going anywhere. This DSLR, the D750, has an excellent sensor. It takes excellent photos. It really does. It takes really good photos. Matched with the 14 to 24, it's a killer combination for real estate photography. The Z6 with the 14 to 30 is also a killer combination for real estate photography. And when I look at them both, I think, yes, if I'm going to go hiking 6 kilometers into the wilds to take some landscape shots, I'm taking my Z6. I ain't taking the D750 and the 14 to 24 anymore. I'm not hiking 6 kilometers with that thing on my back. But if I'm just getting out of my car, I'm walking into the house and literally unpacking my gear and I'm walking 100 meters with it, then it's D750 and a 14 to 24. I'm shooting the 14 to 24 all the time, just because of the convenience of having mechanical options instead of electronic, being able to adjust my timer via a ring, having a dedicated bracketing button, being able to quickly glance and see where my focus is set. That's great for me. Being able to turn off my live view display to save power when I need to. That's great. That's gold. Having that little LCD panel up the top so I can always see my settings at a glance when I'm standing behind my tripod is gold. These things really do save you time, and I just feel like the D750 and the 14 to 24 is a combination that was designed to make my job easier. I feel like the Nikon Z6 and the 14 to 30mm lens is a combination that was designed to make people, to appeal to people who want a lighter, smaller, stylish, technological rig. I think this was made to appease people who want technology, who want new technologies. For me, as a working photographer, my D750 gets out of my way far more often than my Z6 does. It just does. It's just a quicker, faster unit to use when I'm working job to job to job, when I'm doing a lot of photography jobs in a row, when I'm shooting a lot of photos on a job, when I'm shooting really big properties and I've got 40, 50, 60 angles in that property I'm going to shoot. It speeds me up. The Z6 is great. It's technological. It's got some great features and it's got a lens with a better range, but there's some issues that slow me down and annoy me quite a bit. So I guess the question comes down to it. What am I doing with these two units, these two setups? Which one am I using the most? And truthfully, after about 8 months with my Z6, for video work, I'm using my Z6 exclusively. For video, this camera system is phenomenal. With the 14 to 30 lens, this is a killer interior video kit. This is just a killer setup. The footage I can get out of this straight out of the camera is amazing compared to my old Sony a6500. It is just amazing. I find I hardly have to adjust anything. I have to adjust a little bit of contrast, maybe little tweaks to the footage from this camera. But overall, it's a killer camera for video. I find the D750 and the 14 to 24, I just keep going back to it. I have them both in my bag, and I'm finding that when I'm getting to jobs, I'm just looking at both cameras and thinking, I just want to get out of here quicker. I want my time saved, and I'm going for my D750, my 14 to 24, over my Z6. So for me, yeah, my DSLR is not dead. It's very well alive. It's very much alive and well, and it's very much still being used even today. And I keep saying this, but it's a killer combo for real estate photography. And this thing, the Z6 with the 14 to 30, is a killer combo for real estate videography. And that's kind of how these two camera systems have found their place now in my bag. Photo one, video mostly the other. Sometimes I interchange. I never use my D750 for video, but sometimes I do shoot photos with the Z6, but mostly it's finding itself on a gimbal and it's shooting real estate video. So that's just some of the issues I've had with my Z6 coming from a D750 for real estate photography, and some of the issues I've found over the last few months, some of which I've got workarounds for, some of which there haven't been any workarounds for yet. Hopefully, some updates to firmware will fix some of these issues over time. So again, if you found this video helpful and you want to leave a comment below, I'll be happy to get back to any comments or questions about either system as I've been using them. But otherwise, thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. I just want to say a heartfelt thank you to all my subscribers. Thank you for subscribing to my channel and watching my videos and following. Thank you for your questions and comments as well. I've run my own business full-time since 2007, and I photographed my first real estate property way back in 2005. So for me, it's been a long time. It's been 14 years now since my first real estate photography job. Over the years, I've worked for dozens of agents, and I've done hundreds, if not thousands of jobs, and I've seen almost every property you can imagine. And over the years, I've experienced the ups and downs of this industry and this business in every way, shape and form. I'm currently putting together some educational content which I'll be offering on my website. And if that's something that interests you, then you can go up to my website and sign up for email notifications of when that content will be available. Again, thank you to everyone who subscribed and watched my videos, and I'll see you in the next one.